Welcome and thank you for joining us for this Rising to the Challenge special video presentation. My name is Brad Hammer. I'm the director for the Center for Career and Professional Development.
And my name is Kobe Baker. I'm a senior studying early childhood education.
So this evening we're going to be talking about a lot of those common questions that you have when going through your job search, putting together your resume. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. What do you say, Kobe?
Yeah, let's do that. So kind of the first thing, definitely looking at resumes, since I think that's kind of something we start off earlier as a freshman. What do I include on my resume, like contact information, stuff like that?
So on your resume, for the contact information, you really want to just start off with obviously your name, and then you don't really need to include your street address anymore. It's just city, state, and zip code, and then email and phone number. If you do have a website or LinkedIn profile that you feel confident with, you could also include that. But one of the common things, or one of the things that I see more often than not on resumes is including that city, state, and zip, which now that is more of an indicator of where you want to work rather than where you're currently living.
So actually, it's a funny story. My principal texted me today and asked for my mailing address, and I sent her my email instead. So yeah, don't do that. So you kind of mentioned LinkedIn. What is a LinkedIn profile for those that don't know what it is?
Sure. So LinkedIn is it's a social media site that is strictly professional. So it's a great way to connect with alumni or people that are within your industry in order to be able to, share ideas, potentially if they have job openings or they know of somebody that has a job opening. But it really is that professional connection or that professional networking site where, you can connect with people that are doing what it is that you want to do, or share those ideas and just really be engaged with other professionals that are in your field.
Good. So I kind of have heard different standpoints on this, so I'm quite interested to see what you have to say. Should my resume be more than one page, or should it kind of stick to that one page limit that some people say it should?
Sure. The one page standard, I feel like, is it's a traditional way, more old school. However, whenever giving resume advice, I always kind of have a disclaimer that I like to give to students where resume advice is subjective. So you can ask 5 different people, 10 different people, and they could say, you could get 5 like, oh my gosh, it should be one page. And then you could get 5 that say, oh, it doesn't matter how many pages it is. So if you have a hiring manager that has that, because I actually have, we had mock interview day a couple weeks ago, and there was an employer that we sent in resumes and they specifically said they need to keep it to one page. But I haven't heard that in a long time. So I always say it's a good idea to have both and to save both. All right, here's your really brief one page. This hits all of the highlights, the things that you want to make sure that you mention. But then you can have a detailed version that goes on to a second page.
So the one that is longer, I would definitely include references. Is that something you want to put on a resume, or is that something you want to kind of keep separate?
Separate. So yeah, that's another kind of old school way of closing your resume, where you would say references available upon request, or you would include your references on your resume. But I say, the new format is having your references and I recommend using it as a follow-up. So when you have, you send in your application, you include your resume, and then a couple of days later, you can follow up and say, I have a list of references and I can include those.
Okay. And I know this is something I struggled with when I was making a resume. If I win awards, do I include the ones I won in high school? Do I keep it to kind of college only? How do I know what I should include award-wise and what I shouldn't include?
My litmus test, I guess, or the standard that I always say, or I always tell students or alumni, if you have compelling, recent, and relevant information, those are the things that you want to make sure that you list and that you have on, you list first. More often than not, by the time you're a senior, virtually all or probably all of your high school information is going to come off. You want that recent, relevant, compelling information. If you won some award that you are the only person in the nation in high school, I've seen it a couple times where it's worked to be able to include some high school information, but for the most part, you're going to want to leave that off and just focus on what is relevant and recent and compelling to the employer and targeted to that employer that you're applying to.
Mm-hmm. So summer jobs and part-time jobs. When I get to that point of ready to send that out to find my permanent career job, do I need to include those types of things in there, or is that something I should leave off as well?
It depends. I always work with what you have. If you have a really solid resume that has all relevant stuff on it, then you may not have to include the summer jobs, especially if it's like, yeah, I worked there for a couple of months. But if you've worked there you can show that longevity. You worked there for a couple of summers. You were working as a team. There's some transferable skills that you have developed from those summer jobs, then I would say go ahead and include it. But again, that's going to come at the end or toward the end of your resume. The most recent, relevant, compelling is going to come at the very beginning, and you want to make sure that you highlight those. The rest is more supporting information, like those summer jobs.
So kind of to branch off that, if those are the only jobs I've worked, then those should probably be included on there, right? Even though it's not a long period of time, but that's something where you can see that I've been working leading up to that.
Absolutely, yeah. Employers, they don't necessarily, the ones that I speak with, they don't necessarily want to be the first one to offer somebody a job because they're like, oh, this may not work out. They don't necessarily have that work ethic or understand what that's all about. So yeah, even if it is McDonald's, whatever, fast food, retail, list work experience for sure if that's your only work experience that you have.
Mm-hmm. So I've got my resume done and I'm ready to start looking for a job. Where do I start? Where?
Yeah. So it can be super scary, and especially if there's a student or an alum who graduated in something where it's not like education, where all right, here are the school districts, here are the specific job fairs. So if you don't necessarily have a career in mind, I would recommend talking to people that are within your area of interest. So that's where LinkedIn can be really helpful. Finding alumni that graduated in your program and are doing what you want to do that's the best place to start. There's a job board, we have job fairs, we have mock interview day. There's a lot of events that the CCPD does during the course of your college career that I would recommend doing in order to really take ownership of your career development process. So it really shouldn't be I'm about to graduate and I still don't know what I want to do, or I still don't know which direction I want to go. But even if that's the case, there's job board, there's career fairs, there's all of these different opportunities to be able to get started. And like I said, LinkedIn is a good way to start if you just kind of want to connect with people online in order to get that direction that you're going to go.
So you kind of mentioned it with the job board, but what websites should students go look for to find jobs?
Sure. So LinkedIn is a good website. I honestly, there's so many that are out there, and unless it's really specific to your field and what you want to do, I feel like the Indeeds or Monster, there's so many of them that are out there. I don't recommend spending a lot of time there. You can go and just peruse and see what's there, but don't spend a ton of your time. More often than not, when I'm working with an alum who's having a hard time with their job search, they're spending all of their time on one or two job sites. And so I always will say, how much time are you spending talking to actual people or following up on those specific positions that you've applied to? Because that's the best way to gain traction and gain momentum within your job search.
Yeah, and that's one thing I don't know if students necessarily know is you do help alumni after they graduate as well. It's not just your 4 to 6 years that you're here. They can come back and get help even if they've been out for a couple of years, correct?
Correct. And especially with, the pandemic, we've had an influx of alumni that have come in, and absolutely, even if it's just a matter of, I want to make sure, Brad, I want to make sure I'm on the right track. Can you look over my resume again? These are the types of positions that I'm interested in, or, just kind of talk through things in order to be able to reassure that it's like, am I doing this right? What else could I be doing? It's always good to come and talk with professionals that this is what we do every day. And yes, we work with alumni too.
Yeah, and I think that goes unappreciated because not a lot of universities do that. So that is nice, especially from the student side. But when do I start applying for jobs? Like, what's considered too early, too late? How do I know when I should start applying for jobs?
I always say the earlier, the better. So if you're a senior right now that's watching this, like, it's time. You need to start applying for positions. You only have a month, a little over a month before graduation. So now is the time. For specific positions that, you're not going to sit for your boards or you have all of it, there's maybe a little bit more of a window where we do have students that are graduating. They'll go through commencement, but they don't finish until maybe July or even August. I would still say now is a good time to kind of start putting things together and to know, here's your short list of organizations that you're interested in. Because if you apply right now, they may want you to start next month. And if you impress them and you let them know I don't sit for my boards until August, or I still have to finish up my clinicals or whatever it might be, they may hold a spot or they may have a spot open for you. But just know that if you do start early, the amount of opportunities is going to open up, and you may get an opportunity that they may want you to start earlier than you can. You just need to be prepared to have that conversation with the employer.
So after I apply for a job, I know it's good to reach out, but how long do you give before you reach out? When sometimes they're just like, we're trying to decide still. So how do you decide when you should reach out?
Sure. So you go through your application, you submit your application, and I usually say, things happen fast. If they know that they want to hire you or they want to bring you in for an interview, it could be from when you apply, bring you in for an interview, and get a job may take a week or sometimes even less. So I always say, once you apply, wait 3, maybe 5 business days before you follow up. If you haven't heard anything, by that 5th day, I would for sure say, all right, I'm reaching out. I'm really interested in the opportunity. I submitted my application on whatever day. Just wanted to see if there's any additional information that I could provide or any information that you might have for me, because they may have filled the position, and then you can cross them off and move on to the next opportunity that you're interested in.
Go on from there, yeah. So in our life of COVID that we're now in, it seems like a lot of things are being done on Zoom.
Sure.
So is there a good chance that a lot of interviews are going to be on Zoom, or?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, your first interview is going to be on Zoom or phone call. And so making sure that you're prepared and you have a quiet setting with a professional background. And also, and you might get to this, but also your attire makes a difference. I've had students that have interviewed, it was for mock interview day, or I've had employers tell me too casual, even though you're at home, you still need to make sure that you look the part, or even if you're in the library or whatever, you still need to make sure that you look the part. So taking care of and being prepared for those Zoom interviews the same way that you would if you're gonna go into the office is what I would recommend. And again, if you need help or you want to practice doing a Zoom interview beforehand, contact our office and we'd be happy to do that.
And kind of with attire, I have a question about what do I wear, but I know that the Center for Career and Professional Development also has a career closet that if students don't have a suit for guys or something like that, then they can go in and get that, correct? You
can, yes. So we do. We have a career closet, which is honestly, I don't know of any other school that's our size that has this service. It was a parent fund gift that turned into this really cool thing, and we're potentially going to be able to expand it in the near future. So it's really exciting. But yeah, so for $5, you can come in and you can get fully outfitted. The only thing that we don't have is shoes to be able to, so you may have to like have your own shoes. We actually still have socks. Like guys, I got tired of guys wearing like white socks. And so I'm like, all right, we're just gonna buy some black socks and we just give them away. But yeah, so just to offset our dry cleaning fees, yeah, $5 to get a full suit. If you don't worry about having to, go out and buy or spend hundreds of dollars on a new suit, you can just borrow one from the career closet.
Yeah, $5 is a lot better than $500 or however much a suit might be.
And even if it is you, like I feel like everything is good except I don't have a jacket. You can come in and borrow a jacket for $2. So
yeah, that's good to know. So what should we wear, especially on Zoom interviews? Because like I know I've been guilty of, shirt and tie, but then sweatpants. So like, is that something where I should actually like kind of go with the full dress pants, or is it okay to wear sweatpants?
So from a career and professional development standpoint, I say like dress all the way to the, to your shoes. Once you have an opportunity and you're working, if you are working remotely, then I feel like you have a little bit more flexibility. But in order to there's something about making sure that you look the part, and then that helps you to convey that level of confidence and that level of professionalism. So, and then there's all of these kind of fails that have happened with Zoom interviewing where it's like, oh, I need to get up and get the door and I leave my video on and I just have shorts on or no pants or whatever. And so you don't want to, have that potentially happen. So I would recommend dressing just like you were going to go in for an interview, like in person. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that I've definitely been guilty of just wearing sweatpants. It's probably not a good thing, but I've definitely done that.
Yeah, and again, I do the same thing, but it's for Zoom calls that I'm in, not necessarily for
a Zoom interview. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So how do I prepare for an interview? Especially if is there a different way to prepare for if it's on Zoom compared to in person?
Honestly, I don't. I mean, the only thing that's different, obviously, is you want to make sure that your background and everything is in view, or everything that's in view on Zoom is professional. Everything else, you want to make sure that you obviously research the organization, the company, the job description. So reading over the job description and making sure that you can speak intelligently about whatever the organization or the school district or the hospital that you're interviewing with. Those are the things that it's going to help you stand out. Because again, employers that talk to me or that I've spoken with, that can make or break the interview. If one of the first questions is, why did you decide to apply, or why do you want to work for this organization? And you're kind of stumble through that, the likelihood that you're going to be able to get through the rest of it and get a second interview or the job isn't very good. So yeah, making sure that you're doing your homework. And I also say, there's lots of questions that you can prepare for or you can look at going into an interview. I kind of flip it and say, what is it that you want to make sure that they know about you? What do you want to tell them? Make that list, 5, 10 specific things. There's behavioral-based questions that you're potentially going to be asked. So talk about and think about specific scenarios when you've utilized your leadership skills, or you've worked as a team, or you've overcome adversity. Those are the things that employers are going to want to know and they're going to want to talk about. So you might as well have them prepared and think through those specific examples before going into an interview. Otherwise, just coming up with them on the fly, you may seem a little bit unconfident, and so much about the interview is showing confidence, that you have the confidence in yourself and that you're going to be able to do the job that you're interviewing for.
And you kind of touched on this with different questions I might ask. It seems like a lot of interviews, no matter what major, what job, ask similar questions. And it seems like one of the first ones is always, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
How do I decide what to tell them without giving them my whole life story that takes 5 minutes to tell?
Yes, it really is. Tell me a little bit about yourself can be it typically is the first question that's asked. And it can be so difficult, and it trips a lot of job seekers up. So I recommend tell me a little bit about yourself chronologically. And not from, I was born on whenever it was, right? It was, when did you first, chronologically from when you first kind of knew or you developed the interest in the career field that you decided to go into. So this is when that interest sparked, which led you to the university where you studied and you got involved in all of these different organizations, and these are the things that you did in order to continue to develop or pursue this career, and then always ending with, and this is why I'm so excited about this opportunity. So chronologically from when you first developed the interest through what you've been able to do here at the university into like, so excited about this opportunity to be able to sit here with you today, and I'm really excited about this job that I'm interviewing for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that question is kind of something that I think I struggle with, and I know that a lot of other people I've talked to through interviews really struggle with, because you don't necessarily know what you should say. And then, like for me, I don't like talking about myself very well, and I know a lot of people are like that as well. So It just seems like a very hard question to answer sometimes.
Yeah, and you can, if you feel like, there's some where you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going down this tangent and I don't really know where I'm going with this. It's okay to have or to speak some about like, all right, this is more personal stuff, which kind of led you to where you're at. Having that personal component is good, but again, the focus really should be about your career and your goals and how they relate to the position that you're applying to.
So after the interview's over, well, actually before that, I have one question that I just thought of. Shaking hands, not shaking hands. Like I know personally a couple of the interviews I've been through, they haven't, and then a couple they have. Yeah. So how do I decide, do I go to shake their hand without making them feel uncomfortable?
Right. So in this COVID world that we're in, there's kind of like, all right, is it like elbow or is it fist bump or is it no? So as the interviewer, or as the interviewee, you want to make sure, like I wouldn't be the one to initiate, but be prepared for like they may initiate the contact. And if you don't feel comfortable, like given the circumstances, it is perfectly fine. No one is going to fault you for being safe. But again, if they reach to like shake your hand, you better be like confidently be prepared to say, hey, how about we do like elbows? Because I want to make sure that I'm staying safe, because like I said, nobody's going to fault you for wanting to be safe given the climate and the pandemic that's still going on.
Yeah, and it seems like it's still kind of natural for people to, reach out for a handshake or something, so it's definitely hard to determine whether or not it's something that you should do.
It is, and it seems like each industry has kind of adopted their own thing. So there really isn't necessarily like a super consistent, like, all right, yeah, everybody, instead of shaking hands, we're just gonna kind of like do a polite like nod, smile, little wave. That seems to be what some are doing, but again, there still seems to be like elbow, fist bump, and even some like are just eager to get back to shaking hands. So whatever your comfort level is with that, you need to make sure that you're prepared however it goes. I, again, wouldn't recommend initiating the handshake, but if whoever you're interviewing with does, you need to be prepared for that, whatever you're comfortable with.
It was funny, I met with the superintendent the other day, and he goes to reach out and he's like, wait, are you vaccinated? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, I'll shake your hand then. So I'm sure that'll kind of become a thing. Are you vaccinated? And let's go from there.
Yeah.
So after you're done with the interview, what do you do? What's the first thing you should do after you're done with an interview?
Send a thank you. So expressing gratitude is so huge. So, and even like, you have your portfolio here, while you're going through the interview, they always are going to, or more often than not, you're going to have the opportunity to ask questions at the end. So ask questions, take notes. And then when you do follow up with that thank you, express gratitude and have that specific, like, I was really appreciative of whatever it was that like stood out, and you're like, I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful for this opportunity, but then also having something specific in that thank you just makes it that much more meaningful. I've had employers tell me that they've interviewed, like they come to the job fair, they do interviews, and they'll talk to 1,000 people in one day, and they'll get like maybe 2 or 3 thank yous. guess who the ones are that are going to come back for the interview, or they're going to ask to come back for the interview. So, I mean, after the interview, again, expressing gratitude, but again, referring back to the job fair, same thing. Anytime that you have that opportunity, take the opportunity to send a thank you. It really does go a long way.
Yeah, I'm sure it does stand out, because I don't think a lot of people think of the day or two after, like, oh, hey, let's send a thank you to thank
Right.
them for interviewing me.
Well, and even like if you do have an in-person interview, I've had students, or I've had people that have interviewed for positions within my office. I go to lunch and I have a thank you that's sitting on my desk. So they had it, they went out to their car, they wrote it down right away, and then they put it into campus mail, or they came back and gave it to the administrative assistant and made sure that they delivered it to everyone. So the more proactive you can be with the thank you, given that things happen fast, and the snail mail situation, who knows when it might actually get there. So yeah, for sure, make sure that you send that gratitude and be proactive with it rather than sending it a couple days later.
Now, does a like thank you card or a written letter look better than an email? Or like, does it matter? Or as long as you send a thank you, then that's better than nothing? I mean, it is better than nothing, but is there just like a preferred way of doing it?
If you can, I would like send it like a card, like written thank yous. I mean, I still keep some of the written thank yous that students will send me, or I get for doing a presentation, or those types of things. So it really is, it's meaningful. So yes, get a card, handwrite it out in your best handwriting. Make sure that you send it that way. If you're like, okay, I had this interview, I forgot to bring a thank you. It's okay. Sending an email is obviously better than not, but I would try to send that written thank you, because again, it just is so much more meaningful when it's sent that way.
So one thing I was kind of wondering about, do you have any advice for people that got done with an interview and like, that wasn't good? Like, just kind of like to calm yourself down, like, that wasn't good. Like, do you have any advice for if that happens? Because there will be interviews where that happens.
Of course. I still remember the first interview that I went on, like after college, and it was terrible. And I mean, it was all of those questions that I know now to prepare students for, like, why are you interested in working for this organization? And I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. I just want a job.
It's a paycheck.
And so, as much as you can, you have to kind of brush it off and learn from it in order to be able to move on to the next one. And I always tell students, if they're not having, or alumni, when they're not having as much luck as they would like to have during their job search, you have to build that thick skin and say, all right, this one wasn't meant to be. There's another one that's better that's out there for me. So I'm going to continue to pursue opportunities. And, and even if you do have an interview and you think that it went well and you still end up getting that rejection letter back, then, it's their loss. There's another opportunity that's out there that's going to be a better fit.
Yep. Yeah, because we're not all going to get every job we want. As nice as it would be. Yeah. So kind of with that rejection letter, is that an email you reply to? Like if they send out an email saying, hey, like you didn't receive the job, like do you send out like a thank you for still interviewing me, or how does that?
So, I mean, you can, if it's just kind of like, all right, you just want to be done with it and you can move on. But this may be an opportunity to ask for feedback. So if they're willing to, and some organizations will just say, we found a better fit, or we found a more qualified candidate, something along those lines. But what does it hurt to ask for feedback to say, where did I miss, or what types of things are you looking for that I didn't have? I want to make sure that I'm well prepared for next time, because I'm really interested in your organization. If another opportunity comes up, I really would like to apply, and I want to know where I fell short.
Good to know. Well, thank you for sitting down with me today. Yeah. It was nice. I think some of our students have learned some things that they might not have known about the Center for Career and Professional Development, so I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for sitting down with me too.
No problem. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Logan Conley from the College of Pharmacy, and I'm going to go shoot. Sorry. Jeff Fry, Dean of the College of Sciences, and I'm going to go shoot. Nope. Nope. Dang. I'm not a three-point shooter. Too much golf, not enough basketball. Come on. Come on. Hitting the net. It goes through, really.
Hello, I am Jacqueline Schalk from the College of Business.
Ron Tully, Dean for College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. What is that?
Hi, I'm Jeremy Coles. I'm from the College of Education. I'm going to shoot some three-pointers. Hopefully I make one, but we'll see how this goes.
Hi, I'm Tom Dillon from the College of Health Professions. Nope. Short. It's okay. In there. Oh.